so that's okay, because I said I was on that urban renewal board, so it's...
Good afternoon. I'd like to call to order the Public Works Finance and Safety Committee meeting of Monday, January 7th, 2019. The first item on the agenda is approval of the consent agenda. Is there a motion and second for approval?
So moved.
Moved by Bueller. Second by Vilhauer. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Item 2 is public input. If anyone would like to speak about something not on the agenda, please feel free to come forward. See none, we'll move on. Item 3 is approval of the agenda. Is there a motion and second for approval?
So moved.
Moved by Vilhauer, second by Roby. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Item 4 is consideration of change order number 1 with Farner Asphalt Sealers for the crack sealing project number 1816 for an extension of time. And I'll look for a motion and second for approval, and then I'll ask Colin to describe this.
So moved. Second.
So I got a motion by Bueller and second by Y. And Colin, would you explain this, please?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This is a pretty simple change order. Right now, we're just doing a change order for an extension of time. The work was not complete on this project due to several factors, but the main one probably being the weather, the freeze-thaw cycles we had early on, and then the timing towards the end of the actual completion date. So we are moving that to May 31st to allow them to finish it in early spring and then move into next year's project.
All right, thank you. Any questions? Councilman Y?
So, Colin, this won't affect 2019's project?
It will not.
We'll have another one right on the heels, right, Rob? Yeah, that was one of our concerns, is you get them too backed up, and they're on top of each other, and we don't want this to affect our chip seal projects for 2019, so.
Yeah, and I don't know if you guys have noticed, we've tried to, any projects that didn't get done, we've tried to be pretty aggressive with the May 31st deadline on any extension. We're not the only city, we're not the only fields that didn't get work done this year, just a weird weather pattern. So we are trying to be aggressive to kind of hit on the mayor's point there, to try to get them done before any projects start under our 2019 budget.
All right, any other questions or comments? All right, I'll look for action. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Item 5 is approval of the street department asphalt patching and pricing policy. I'll look for a motion and second for approval, and then we'll have Rob describe this to us. We have a motion by Albertson. Second by Danforth. Okay, Rob, tell us all about this.
Item 5, it should be just a 2019 Watertown Street Department asphalt repair. There we go. Basically what I'm looking to do here. Okay, thank you. Basically what I'm looking to do here, I've put together new guidelines and repair rates for asphalt for 2019 and moving forward. What we previously had was outdated, and our pricing was not up to par. This is going to be a substantial increase, which we will, moving forward, would bill for everything we would do on patching of contractor trenches, anything that when somebody puts a driveway end in. We currently, the city has been doing for many years, basically subsidizing the first 6 inches outside the curb line for patching if somebody does a driveway. So when we do those patches, it's basically free of charge. And I personally don't think that's right, but that's why I'm bringing this to you. And on top of that, these rates, as you'll see here, we've simplified the rates per square foot and the depth, and then if we have to do base course, what it would be per square foot. These rates are a bit higher than our local contractor that does the work, this type of work. So our current rates that we've been going off of have been cheaper, which that's, you know, in my mind, that's not the way it should be. But that's why I'm here, is to bring this forward and let you guys decide if you want to do this or not.
All right, thanks, Rob. Any questions? Councilman Y?
How many feet do you do a year? Is this big projects, little projects?
This is small. This is basically like when a contractor goes out in a roadway and has to dig up a water or sewer service. A lot of times those patches are 8 by 8, 10 by 10. We're putting a maximum size that we'll deal with of 100 square feet, unless it's, say, a narrow trench that's 100 feet long, something that we can handle by hand, then we'll tackle it. But that's what I have here is they need pre-authorization from me before we would commit to doing that. And also it shows on here that they have to get a permit from engineering prior to all work too. This would be part of our street department policy, as well as pricing guidelines for 19. But yeah, the larger patches that say are 10 by 20, we will not be tackling those. That would be done by a vendor with a paving machine. Those in the past we've done patches that big, but they're not, the quality is not good enough because it's done by hand. It's not smooth enough. So,
Okay. Councilman Bueller?
Hi, Rob.
yeah.
Just a question. You got 4, 5, and 6 inch. Could we just simplify that and have one price no matter what thickness you do? They're a buck apart, I think, so.
Right, and we could do something along those lines, maybe an average of some sort.
Right.
You know, a lot of our residential streets are 3 inches. I put 4 as a minimum because I feel as we're patching it back in, and we'll put the 12 inches of base, or they will, which I've reflected in the instructions here. Or if we have to put it in, it'll be 12 inches of base and a 4-inch mat minimum. So, but we could do that if you would want that.
That's just a suggestion.
You know, we could average it at 5 inches, and you know, something we could do.
Councilman Danforth?
Rob, I got 3 or 4 questions here.
Yeah.
The type of work that's being done is typically either going to be a repair work that was done in the street, or it would be a connection by the utilities going into a new property, correct?
Correct.
So if it is a repair, okay, either the property owner has a need for the repair, or the utilities does, or we do from some type of service that we would have, sewer or
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
So would this apply to utilities, and would this apply to property owners?
This would apply to contractors or property owners. We currently do not bill utilities for work that we do for them.
Okay, so if it's a utility work that they needed to do because it's their problem, we don't charge them.
Right.
Okay,
And
so
if
it's
it's
a
too
contractor
big,
doing some work for a property owner, they get charged.
we'll charge a contractor, correct.
So that's my first question. Second one is it hard to get other companies to do this? So if I've got a 10 by 10 or a 8 by 10 or a 20 by 20, is it hard to get companies to come in and to do those work?
It is very hard. When Lang was doing this type of work, it wasn't so bad. People could get help. But now the only company that does patching besides us is Dunix, and they're extremely expensive, but they're the only company that does it. We have had contractors that have requested that we let them do the work themselves, but we've had problems with that when we've let them do that. We've watched how they've done the work, and this is not easy just to go in and do it. It'd be like pouring concrete for the first time in your life. It's not simple, and it really takes an experienced crew to do a good job.
Well, I wouldn't recommend that, let them do that. But is there a reason why do we do this? If there's people out there that do in fact do this, why do we do it at all?
It's something that the city's done as long as I can remember. I don't know, it's a service we offer, and the way it was before, prior to this request here, we weren't making out on it. We were losing money, if anything. So it's something that we need to, I believe, revise each year, our pricing on this, and stay up with times. But, if it's something we didn't do, would they be able to get it patched? That's my concern too, is we struggle to keep up with these contractor trenches and the utility trenches and the potholes. And Dunnick's, like this last year, sometimes we hire them to do some work for us too. They were just unavailable because they were just buried in work that we had for them, and as well as work outside of town. I think we'd struggle if we didn't offer this.
So is what I'm reading here, I'm go back to something that you had said, and I don't remember your exact words on it, but is what I'm reading here then an update on the cost and the conditions or the size of which we will do the job?
Correct.
You said something about connections, and we used to do that, and did we not charge?
No, and as you'll see on my next part of this, and item number 6 on the agenda, I'll explain a situation where we don't charge or haven't charged for as long as I can remember prior to me ever coming over there, but where I believe we should be charging.
Okay, so you're going to address that one yet?
I will address that in the
All right,
next
good.
the next
Thank
one. And if you wanted to see, hey Ray, could you put the camera up? Zoom in. Can you do that? This document was the previous charges, the way it was set up, which really we're simplifying the whole document and how we charge. As far as per square foot price, we're adding cutting in, and the packing and everything is included in that new cost per square foot price. It'll simplify it for the contractor and our staff as well. They know ahead of time it's this much per square foot, period. We've had a lot of issues where it just wasn't laid out very clear. And things have changed too, where it used to be Kenny would upstairs with building services would bill out part of it, and we'd bill out part of it, and like the sewer tapping charges, I'm not even sure why those were even showing on our documentation, because all we're in charge of is patching the trench. So that's the old document there, which I brought along so you could look at it if you did have questions. But it's a improvement, I guess.
Other questions? Councilman Albertson?
Rob, I have a question. Out by the lake, I had a couple of people say that they had to redo this spring now or this summer, they had to redo their sewer lines or something that happened during the year. But they said they were given first bids on what it was going to cost, basically, and then the people that said they were going to do it didn't show up, and they got another crew coming in, and it was, instead of $1,500, it was $4,200. You probably got the same calls. And would that have happened, that to do this work it would have been estimated to be at $1,500 and it was really $4,200?
I don't know. I don't know the details on that. I'm assuming you're talking probably somewhere along South Lake Drive.
Right.
Because there was two locations over there that were not far apart on the new mat, where contractors had dug in new water and sewer, I believe. We did patch one of those trenches, and the bigger one we were not able to patch. It was supposed to be patched by a contractor, and they did come in and patch it later on. I don't know about the pricing or anything that they were given by the contractor, because as far as our pricing, it was clear on what we would charge, but we're not tackling those 20. That was a big one, that large one out there. That was 20 foot by, I don't know how big, but it was large.
So that would have been in the thousands of dollars.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, our new pricing that we would have would be a substantial increase, it would be quite expensive as well. The pricing that I've established here was based on the local vendors' pricing that they would charge. And we will be just a touch higher than that, so we're not taking work away from them as well. So, you know, like I say, prior to that, the 2011 pricing sheet that we have here, it didn't cover all of our expenses.
Did did they have somebody else come in and do work for what they were going to do? Then did somebody else come in and do the work?
I don't think so. I think they did with their staff. They do have a smaller crew that does a lot of the patching with a smaller paver, with an 8-foot paver. And I believe their small crew did those patches, the big ones around the lake. Because we had, towards the end of the season, I think we had a half a dozen of patches around the lake that we did. And there was a few big ones that we weren't doing. They were doing. Dunix was doing, so. And this, moving forward, too, would clarify, like I say, the 100 square feet, the 10 by 10, those are the size patches we can handle with our crews and do a quality job. You know, you look at that roadway out there, and it's a new roadway, and even where we patched, our guys are really good. I'd put them up against anybody as far as patching goes, but it's still handwork, and it's hard to get it smooth and looking good compared to a paver. So that the ride quality is good.
Any other questions? Did anybody want to change the motion to change the fee on there?
I make a motion, Mayor, that we average the fee, and that's up to a maximum of 6 inches.
Change that to maybe average, because we have 4 and we have 5 and 6. If we did an average of 5 inches of the cost at 5 inches and
That's what I
just
think.
have one.
Yes, put that on my motion, I guess.
Amended motion. Include the fees, but eliminate the 3 different categories. Just have one fee for asphalt patch. At the 5-inch rate. Councilman Danforth?
You know, no disrespect, Bruce, but I'm wondering if you do have a large area, well, you're only the 10 by 10 though, aren't you?
Right.
It's only your fees, right?
And the only time that we would go outside the 100 square feet is if we did have a narrow trench that we can loot by hand. With these rakes are like 3 foot wide. They're an aluminum type rake. We call them loots, but if we did a trench that was 100 foot long by 3 foot wide, that, you know, of course would be a lot bigger, but that's something we could handle.
Is the 3 rate tier that you have, is that difficult for you guys to manage or difficult for?
It's not from our standpoint, because the guys beforehand would measure the depth of the contractor trench. A lot of times the contractors will prep this up to the depth that we work, you know, that we'll put mix in, and they'll compact it, and then we'll come in and we'll actually put the mix in 2 lifts. And
And is it possible that the 3 foot by 100 foot that you referenced, that could be, the cost would be borne by a homeowner or a property owner that's right there?
Absolutely, and that generally that would get passed on, you know, from the contractor. Now I don't know, you know, most of these contractors will probably tack on a percentage.
But my point is if I am the one paying the bill, I'd just soon pay what I actually got. You know,
Yeah,
if
see what
it's
you're
really
saying.
3 and I'm paying for 4 or 5. That's all I'm saying, Bruce, is that if it's really not a problem for them, I let them manage the
I'm just
numbers.
looking at this from a simplification standpoint. You don't have to calculate. You got a guy say, hey, I got 4.5. What are you doing here? You know, I got
Right.
5.5. Or is
Yeah.
it 6? You know, then you've got one fee that covers everything.
yeah. You know, and they're the minimum, in this case, the way I have it laid out, the minimum we would put in is 4 inches, and the max we would put in is 6. And we do have some streets in town that are 5 to 6 inches. 19th Street, I think, is one of them that's between 5 and 6 inches.
What would you prefer to do?
The way I proposed it is what I would prefer to do, but I see Bruce's point. It's a good point. It simplifies it for everybody. You know, and as far as quality goes, if we do get to a situation where it should be 6 inches, we would probably put in the 6 inches. And we'd be, you know, we'd still probably be making out fine, but because of the pricing being set just a touch higher than the local contractor.
We have an amended motion. Do I need a second for that? Anybody want a second, or do you want to just let it die? Not hearing any seconds. So we still have a motion to approve what Rob presented on the floor and a second on that. So all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 6 is authorization to write off accounts receivable in the amount of, it says $722.80, but that should be revised to $737.56. And this is one Rob was going to tell us about, and so I'll just let you go ahead, and then
Right.
I haven't got a motion yet, so you just tell us about this first.
Okay. This is an example of one of those situations where when somebody puts in a driveway, for whether they do it themselves or they have a contractor do it, we'd come back and do that sliver of a patch of asphalt where they put their form in out into the city roadway. In this case, though, I had built it out because the contractor had cut out 2 foot out in the road. Well, I was not aware the reason they cut out 2 foot was because the gutter line was in tough shape. It was deteriorated, and he went out as far as he needed to match up to good road. And I had built it. I shouldn't have. I probably should have called this contractor and asked him why, but I'll show you a little drawing of what we have here. Okay, here's a situation where we generally, where this is red, 6-inch wide asphalt area, this is a curb, this is a driveway they put in, and we normally would come in and just patch that sliver in with asphalt, pack it in. He had taken out to here, so we had to put all this in, which wasn't a real big deal. But his reasoning for taking all that out was good. It was. I'm glad he took it out. So anyway, I billed an error. I shouldn't have billed him on that if we were staying with our standard policy. Now moving forward with what you just approved, we will bill for all of this. Any of the patching in front of driveways will bill for the whole works. So.
And the reason this bill is coming back to the council is because it's already been sent out. And in order for the bill to be retracted, there needs to be a council action. Kristen can't just take it back. So I'll need a motion and second to allow for this, and it should be with the excise tax included. Then the revised amount to write off would be $737.56. So look for a motion. Moved by Vilhauer. Second by Solon. What did we say? Oh, Albertson. Sorry. Any further discussion about this? You see none. I'll look for action. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Thanks, Rob.
Yep.
Item number 7 is consideration of change order number 1 for the Bramble Park Zoo Shop Project with Lakeside Construction for an increase of $3,214.67, bringing the final contract amount to $199,056.67. And I'll look for a motion second for approval, and then we'll talk about it. Moved by Vilhauer. Second by Roby. All right. Colin, will you please explain this? And then Jay's here from the park department too.
Yeah, is it okay if I just pass it right to Jay?
Absolutely. Yeah, you bet.
Yes, I wish to request council approval for this change order for the Bramble Park Zoo Shop project. Actually, it results from an increase in needed gravel to get the building elevation to the correct level, and then also some additional gravel when the apron was placed on the outside of the building to get that up to elevation as well on the apron. And then there's a deduction because with the late fall and early freeze, we decided to just go ahead and complete the project, but we are going to get a deduction of $2,000 to have our staff complete the landscaping, the dirt work this spring.
Was this a lump sum
Yes,
project?
yes, it was.
Were the quantities spelled out?
They were not.
But the engineering department did you discuss this with, we don't normally, if it's a lump sum, we wouldn't necessarily adjust the price.
I guess I did not discuss this with the engineering guys at the time it occurred.
I'm not aware of this one.
Okay.
Sorry.
Mayor, can I ask a question
Sure.
on this item?
Councilman Danforth?
Would the drawings have reflected the elevations that they should have been at? That's what, I'm kinda going where you're going, Mayor, and plus the documents that would have been there for the elevations wherever gravel was at should have been called out, which,
Yeah, I would assume so, but you know, Dan and Jim came to me with the need that the contractor needed this additional gravel to get the elevation for the base of the building.
The architect designed it, right?
Yes, that was Rod DeYoung, that Austin Engineering, that worked on that.
Mayor, can we bring this back in 2 weeks and after they've had time to look at this?
I'd be fine with that. Let's see, are you done? Is this gonna be,
This would be,
A
we'd be
final
able to make
change
the
order?
the final change order and do the final payment on it.
Are we sure in how the bid came in on this? I mean, I'd be inclined to, before we approve it, that we take a look at it and then bring it back in a couple of weeks if we can.
Okay, I can sure take a look at all the plans and get with Dan and Jim and the contractor and go through this.
if we had quantities spelled out and they ended up needing more, then we would do a change order. But if, I haven't seen the contract though, to see how this was presented. I think that would be a good idea before we pay it.
So do we
not a
have a
huge amount.
motion in place now?
We
on
do.
this? We do? And so what do we do with that? Vote it down for right now,
Just
or do we?
Prove it if you wanna wait. Oh, wait, yeah,
This isn't, just a reminder, this isn't the council meeting.
right, this is a recommendation.
So, at the council meeting, you could just take it off the consent agenda at the beginning of the meeting, because I believe that's where.
It isn't on the consent. I was going to put it on there.
Oh, okay. Let's
But,
remove it from the agenda. For this purpose, you could vote it down or motion to postpone it till the next Public Works meeting.
Okay, and we already have a motion, so if the motion fails, can we make another motion to postpone? Or revisit, or?
You just wouldn't
alternate
act on the
motion?
pending motion. If somebody motioned to postpone,
Okay,
that would
till
postpone
the next council meeting.
till the next Public Works meeting.
Okay.
I think I made the initial motion, didn't I? I guess I would move to postpone it.
Okay, we have a motion to postpone by Bill Hauer. Is there a second? Second by Danforth.
Do you want to, well, I guess, do you want to discuss it at the next Public Works meeting or just directly at the council meeting? So motion to postpone.
Postpone to the next Public Works meeting.
Right, to the committee meeting, yeah.
So that would be another 2 weeks and,
Okay.
I don't have the date, but
I guess I would just make a comment, the building, or, I didn't mean to jump in and take your fire away, Jay, but I sat in the last Zoo Society meeting, and, you know, very complimentary already as far as what the efficiencies they're seeing from this new building, and excited about what it's gonna mean for operations out there, especially this time of the year.
Oh, I would concur with that. They are very, very pleased with the project, and I was over there at the shop today, and it is a nice facility. They'll be able to do not only vehicle and equipment storage, but also be able to do such great maintenance work. They'll have their woodworking area, their welding and cutting area, and it'll be clean and efficient. And they're basically combining about 4 different shop locations into one now, and it's going to be a wonderful addition to the zoo.
It's great. Yeah, I know it was really needed. So glad it's turned out nicely.
Yeah, and by all means, if you get a chance, stop by and take a look, because it is a nice facility.
Yeah. All right. Any other discussion? So we have a motion to postpone, and that's what we'll act on. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. And then I'll just remove this from the council agenda for tonight,
Okay.
and we'll put it back on the 21st.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Jay. Is there any old business?
Probably.
Rob had some old business.
If you guys want to listen to me for a while.
Only if it's about snow removal.
Well, it is. Imagine that. Unless somebody else has something. All right. Thank you, Mayor. All right. Sue and I have put together just a small presentation about the back-to-back snowstorms that we had. The first one being a large event. All right, let's see here. That'll work. All right, so we did have a 12-inch snow event, basically starting on the 26th of December 2018, and we had another event with ice in between that basically we were done with on 1/3/19. So this is a timeline basically of our operations and some of the stuff that went on. And I'm basically just wanted to present to you guys, what our crews did during this event, how we handled it, what got taken care of, and what we focused on. First and foremost, just so you understand, our focus is during a snow event, when it's snowing and there's wind, our focus is always to keep the emergency routes open. And we won't start any residentials unless it's an emergency route until after the snow has slowed down and the winds have decreased. During this event, basically on Wednesday, the 26th of December at 10:45, the snow started. a.m. in the morning. We started sanding operations at about 1:15. It was starting to get slick to the point where we felt it was needed. We stopped sanding around 7 p.m. that evening, and that was about 12 hours of staff coverage throughout that day. On Thursday, we started 5 a.m. We had our contractor started at the lake to plow the main roads around the lake, North and South Lake Drive, 33rd Street, Golf Course Road, those main routes so we can keep traffic flowing into town from the lake if there's an emergency. We do some extra roadways that are not considered on the emergency snow route map. The lake is not on that. I'm working on revising that, and I will be bringing that to you guys for approval after the mayor and I go through that stuff. I do believe there's several roadways in town that need to be on the emergency snow route map. We currently do take care of the South Bypass, Willow Creek Drive, North and South Lake Drive, 4th Avenue, Golf Course Road, 33rd Street, all those out there, we handle them like they're an emergency snow route. We also do like Mickelson Drive, some of the areas out in the northeast, like around McDonald's out there by the motels. We handle that as part of our emergency snow route. We try to get to those. It's not on the map, but we do attempt to get to those places as often as we can. Just so you know that ahead of time. I got off track here a little bit. But anyway, on Thursday at 4 a.m., we did start with the contractor running the lake just to hit that during the snow event. It was still snowing, it was windy, but we were trying to keep things open. We had the entire staff plowing by 5 a.m. on the highways and snow routes. That was our first run of that. Now, by 1 p.m., our staff reran the highways and snow routes and Lake Compesca, those same areas we had the contractor do the first time, because the snow was accumulating. It was a 12-inch snow over 42 hours is what that snow fell for. And we ran it a second time, and then actually a third time, we reran the lake. We had one guy that ran a plow truck. We tried to keep drifts knocked open, and he reran the main lake road at 5 o'clock one more time. Now, we ended our operations of plowing highways and snow routes, the lake and all that. We were done by 7 p.m. that night. And that was, our staff worked a little over 14 hours that day, from when they came in till they went home. On Friday, the winds continued, and we had gusts up to 38 miles an hour. We received 8 inches of additional snow between Thursday and from Thursday morning till, well, basically till Friday morning. We had our contractor run all the lake areas starting at 3 a.m. He reran the lake roads, but he also did the airport, all the areas that he normally runs, which is basically west of 21st Street. So we had him going on all that. The snow did begin tapering off around 6 a.m. that morning. One thing I'm just looking at here. Yeah, we had started downtown, and I'm not sure why that's not showing on here. Let's see. We had started cleaning downtown. So at 8 a.m., our motor graders had moved into other areas, and we were still cleaning downtown. Downtown area took 13 hours during that 12-inch event to clean. Now, prior, when I first came into the street department, it took us 13 hours to do a 3 or 4-inch event. The way we've changed it, we've added trucks, contractor loaders, plus we got a snowblower now, and we have our old snow loader. We put it all at it, and we just try to knock it out. So it's still even with 12 inches of snow is a lot to handle. As you'll see, the old home snow hole, we call it, it's close to full. We don't have much more capacity left over there.
If that had been like a 3 or 4 inch snow, how long would downtown have
four
taken?
4 to 5 hours.
So it ended up taking 13 hours.
Yep. Winds did taper off around 2 p.m. By 4 p.m., as you'll see, we were done cleaning the downtown. And actually, yeah, I don't know what, we missed that, putting our time frame, our starting time frame on that. But anyway, by 8 p.m. that night, our crews, basically we were done and getting ready to go home. That was an 18-hour day for our crews. My concern there is when we have guys running these motor graders, and we have 6 of them, 18 hours in a motor grader is too long. It's dangerous. These motor graders weigh over 40,000 pounds. You bump into somebody, it could be more than just a little fender bender. So that does concern me when we're working such long hours. Saturday, let's see, I kind of like this thing. Saturday, We did start on Saturday. You know, we put out a PSA, of course, prior to all that, but we started, we did do avenues and we finished up streets because we didn't get them done the night before. By 3 p.m., we completed all the city roads on that Saturday. And that was about just under 13 hours our staff worked that day. That event from start to finish, the first time we started plowing highways and snow routes was still 58 hours that we cleared it all in.
Rob, I got a question. I think I know the answer, but I want to make sure because I do get questions on this. When you say streets and avenues, you're talking about in town proper. So if you live in a street or an avenue out in, you know, by the lake, for example, that schedule does not apply to them.
That is correct, and that is part of what we're working on to revise basically what I would call a hybrid
Zone.
yes, for the lake, for certain areas of town such as north of 14th Avenue and east of 19th Street, that would be a zone as well. South of 212 would be a zone. We have areas, the only area this really applies to, the streets and avenues, that's in our policy, is really from 21st Street West to 19th Street East, from 212 to 14th. That's really the zone that applies. Otherwise, outside of that area, we do it differently. We plow it as fast as we can, and to be fast, when we go up to River Ridge, it makes no sense to do just streets or just avenues. So we clear the whole thing and we get out of there. And we do the same with North Ridge, Eastwoods, Dakota Commons. That's why I want to put together a new snow route map, a whole new process, and bring it to you guys for review and approval on how we do this. I think that'll help simplify our process to the public. I mean, I don't think they'll be as confused when we bring that forward.
Rob, you should point out, I think, it's remarkable with the 12-inch snow. It snowed for 42 hours straight.
Right.
And then from the time that the snow stopped until you were completely done clearing was...
I think we had 58 hours or from when it stopped. Yeah,
like
I actually didn't
34
figure
hours,
that out.
32 hours. You told me the times.
Yeah,
So-
and from when the wind tapered off, I never did figure out
6 a.m.
for
to
this.
3 p.m. the next day. And I think that's remarkably good for a storm of that magnitude. It's been the street department's policy to focus during the event on the snow routes and the emergency routes, the highways. We plow the highways, even though the state maintains the asphalt and the concrete.
Right.
We remove the snow on all of the highways, which is a relatively new thing.
Yeah.
We've only been doing that for a few years, right? Before that, the
Well,
state used
we've
to.
we've added to it. We've done highways for quite a few years, but the highways we never used to. For example, we never plowed from Cottage Liquors all the way out to Sailboat Landing. The state did that. Now we do that, and we pull like where there's curb and gutter by Lakeshore out there. We pull it all the way across the highway, so it's not on the residential side. Just that alone. Just that stretch added about an hour to our snow removal program. We used to stop at the Super 8 on South 81. Now we go all the way to the roundabout, and we include the roundabout. We used to stop at TSC on Highway 212, right by the bridge, and now we go all the way to Walmart. So, you know, they've added a lot. The DOT has, according to the DOT policy, any city with a population of 2,500 or more is responsible for the highways, for plowing the highways within their city limits. Now, the DOT is still doing some of what's in our city limits because east of Walmart, they do that. We do the service roads, but they do the highway out there. So that's one example of a little extra that they've just kept, just I guess to be nice. So, but there's been a lot added. I mean, just the South Bypass alone adds a lot of
Right, but at
snow removal.
12-inch snow, you were completely cleared within a day and a half of the snow stopping.
Right, I believe
And
that's accurate.
so
And this timeline would show
I think
that.
that's remarkable.
And, you know, the staff really, we have a great staff, you guys. I can't express that enough, but they're dedicated to their job and they want to do a good job. And it's hard on the staff when they hear negative feedback because they're really trying. They take it personal. And so we try hard to do our best.
Well, and I have asked a few people if they'd be willing to pay higher taxes in order to have more staff available for snow removal, and nobody said no. I've had several people say yes. I haven't done a big survey or anything, but I think that's a question we should ask. If people are demanding better service, how do we get that? You need more bodies and more equipment. Because you are taxing, you're pushing your guys when they're working 14, 16-hour days.
Right. And it's been hard. Our contractors really have stepped up since we've been having like this big event and stuff. But we're still lacking. You know, we're doing the main part of town with snow gates, with 3 snow gates. That's all we have. 2 ways that I see to accomplish this faster: more manpower, more equipment, or the reduction of snow gates. Just get rid of them.
Because
One
snow
or the other.
gates take more time to operate.
They do take more time. We didn't think initially they did, but they do take more time. But the biggest thing, instead of a 3-man crew where you have a motor grader running down the main driving lane and then a plow truck on the edge with a sander blowing it up over the curb, and then a loader that follows behind, that's a standard 3-man team the way it used to be. Once we added snow gates, you have 2 motor graders now. You have one in the driving lane, you have one, and actually, I'm sorry, but you'll have a motor grader in the driving lane, you'll have a motor grader on the edge, then you have to have a sander truck behind sanding up intersections, and a loader behind, because the snow gate, like in this last 12-inch event, is pretty much worthless. The snow gate causes more issues than anything. I like them on low snows, but people expect them to work on high snows. They do not work on high snows. And I got away from the time frame, but I want to move ahead to this to explain a little bit about snow gates, which hopefully will help everybody understand a little better. Now, if you'll see here, this is basically a drawing that shows the snow gate and the mold board. This is what we call a mold board on a motor grader and the snow gate. This here, these points, when you fill that up with snow, the excess snow that you're pushing ahead has to go somewhere. It'll either go out the end, over the top, one of the ends, or over the top. You just can't carry it forever. So when you get to a driveway and you put the snow gate down, you're collecting what snow you can. Once that fills up to that point, it's going out the ends or it's going over the top. Now, when it goes over the top of the mold board, you've completely defeated your purpose of the gate in the first place. It's going over the top, you've defeated the purpose of plowing the road. You're putting snow right back on the road, which you just plowed. And not only that, we've had our snow gate operators complain that when they do put them down and it starts to bill over the top, a lot of times they lose traction and they lose momentum. To make these blades work with snow gates, you have to keep your momentum going. As you'll see, let's see here. Now, here's something else that nobody thinks about. If we're removing 12 inches of snow right in front of this motor grader, this first motor grader just moved his 12 inches of snow, and he moved it in front of the snow gate machine, okay? So right away, you can't use your mold board because we've had issues with them going over the mold board without the snow gate down. So the snow gates are not effective in, at best, I'm going to say 5 inches of snow. We're finding, I mean, at times maybe if the snow consistency's right, 6 inches maybe, but they are not the cure-all. They absolutely are not. So when people think, well, we only have 4 inches of snow on the ground, why isn't Snowgate working? Well, you have this guy's 4 inches of snow too, as well as the 4 inches you were plowing, plus when you put your gate down, it's building up. So,
Also, you point out about the multitude of driveways when you have driveways
right,
close together.
and that's where this slide will come into play. These are evacuation areas where you can put your gate up and lose the snow, which this is kind of hard to see this drawing, but you're losing the snow there. Now when you're in front of this driveway, you put the gate down. Okay, now you have another open area which you can put the gate up for, it depends on, but in a lot of cases it's a short time. We have areas in town where you might have 15, 20 feet between a driveway. Like, well, I can think of the trailer court, bottom of 10th Avenue is horrible for that. The snow gate does not work there, even on low snows. But when you have that situation, you don't have enough time for it to evacuate most of the mold board from what the extra buildup of the gate being down. So then you get to the next driveway, you put it down, and all of a sudden it's starting to billow over the board or out the end. So what our operator has to do, so he doesn't have to go back and plow the roadway again, is put the gate up. So when the gate's up, of course, that person's going to get snow in his driveway. Now, this compounds by the end of the block, you know, depending on the spacing of the driveways and how wide the driveways are and how much snow we're plowing, by the end of the block, you're carrying the whole block of snow. And you can't do that. It goes over the top. So it's not smart to waste our time going back over the same spot, you know, 2-3 times to get the whole town done. We would be there for a week. So
This also sheds light on why we don't allow unlimited width of driveways. This is another reason, because a wide driveway takes up boulevard snow storage as well as on-street parking for other cars. So
Right.
just another.
yeah, the
Yeah,
wide
reason.
driveways are for the snow gates are really, they're difficult. The old driveways that are narrow, they're not as bad, but when they're close together, they're bad. We have to have a length of time or length of distance to evacuate what extra snow the gate has contained. If you, which I want to do a video, I didn't get to do it this last time around because we were too busy, but I want to do some videos of in the cab of the snow gate. My son has a GoPro, so we'll put that in the cab and it'll show the snow gate operating. And then I also want to do video up front or behind. Up front would be better, but of situations where the snow gate works really well and situations where it absolutely does not work well.
That'd be good.
And to explain to people, because that's been most of our calls from this last event is people upset that we did not use the snow gates. The guys use them when they can. If there's a wind blowing area where there's a couple inches of snow, they might be able to use the gate there. Or if they're crossing a very short distance across an alley or across a narrow driveway that's 12, 15, 20 foot, and 20 foot might even be pushing it. But
Yeah.
go ahead, Bruce.
Councilman Danforth had a question too.
First of all, I appreciate you doing this. You know, I had sent the email with some of the concerns that I had, and that were brought to me is a better way to put that. And so I really like the information, Rob, that you're putting out. The question I do have on, do the snow gates, if I'm using a snow gate, we've already said that we need one more piece of equipment, which is also one more man, right? Mm-hmm. But does the unit itself actually go slower then too?
They do. I was talking this morning with one of my snowgate operators, and the snowgate. Let's see. I'm trying to remember what he said. I think like when we have a standard event, he's going at 4 miles an hour, running a snowgate, and the operator in without running a snowgate is able to go 2 to 3 miles an hour faster. I don't let the guys do that. I make them stay close together because a lot of times the blade in the driving lane will go by and people think they're done blading. They're not. So the second blade's got to come by. If they're half hour behind, then people start blowing out their driveways and they're upset. So I make them stay together.
the fact is that not only are we losing efficiency from the additional vehicle and the person, but we're also slowing the whole process down
Right.
with those graders, correct?
That's accurate. Yep.
To the tune of about a third there as well.
Yeah, just about anywhere from, I would say 25 to
25%.
35%, somewhere in there.
So it kind of
right.
multiplies.
Yeah.
So, and you know, some of the calls and the comments that have been made, you know, I don't care what we do. We can throw as much money or as much equipment at this. We'll always have somebody that's not happy. Just the way it's going to be. But that doesn't mean we can't improve on what we're doing. So, and I think that's our intent right
Absolutely.
now. But there is a complete misunderstanding about snow gates altogether. And plus, we don't have contractors that have snow gates. And that is another one that I have tried to explain to people. And it just doesn't, it might sink in or it might work with that person or two, and then you get another snow and it's the same thing.
Right.
So I know the problem that you're having, and your description up here helps to understand how it builds up in the course of a
A
block.
video too would be,
Yep.
we can post that on the website,
Yep.
once you get that,
Yep.
would really help, I think.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Councilman Bueller has a question.
No, I just, you know, I do run into that, what Mike was saying about the contractors not being able to do this because they don't have the equipment that'll work with the snow gates. They have to have more, they have to have four-wheel drive on those.
Six-wheel drive.
Six-wheel drive on the graders. So they feel pretty slighted by that, and it's tough. I mean, why are these guys getting that thing done? That's a pain. And you mentioned at one time too, did you not, that slush is an issue if it's a heavier snow?
If it's-
they don't work
if it's-
very good, it sticks.
It can damage the gate. If you see right here, actually, let me go back one. This is a little better to see. If you have wet, heavy snow, this gate, I mean, it's built, it's solid, but when you have several ton of wet, heavy snow, and it's kind of sticking, it doesn't want to billow over the top as easy. Do one of two things. It'll either the motor grader will spin out and bend the gate because it can't handle all that weight. Or it'll stop the motor grader. It just, even with the six-wheel drive, sometimes it can't pull it. It's just, you'll spin all six wheels. So,
Councilman Albertson?
Rob, we've been down this road before, but Mike mentioned it with the different equipment and the sweeps that go across. And out by the lake, the sweeps are 4 times going away from the mailboxes and into the driveways.
Yeah.
If you happen to be gone and you get home and there's a 5-foot drift, 6 foot wide, and then you try to move that, you have to hire somebody to come in and do it, but your neighbor across the street has a completely clean driveway. All the way around the lake, it's completely clean, except the people live on the other side. And you mentioned at one time about having somebody follow up and
try to reduce that amount.
taking that hard snow that gets, because when it rolls in 4 times like this time, I can
Right.
show you one driveway out there where I still haven't got mine cleaned off because it's so hard, so I'm going to have to hire somebody to come in and clean that out. But my neighbors, they don't have any snow at all, and I don't know what this, because they're doing a great job cleaning the road out there. Those contractors, I'll tell you, they're out there early, and they come back again and again. But you really have to be there or hire somebody to come in. You can't clean your own driveway out.
You're right about that. There is a spot about, 12 to 14 houses, I believe it is, that the contractor, and this, I think we've been doing this out there for 25, 30 years this way, is everything gets pulled to the one side. And generally, North Lake Drive, we're pulling it to the west, trying to pull it away from the houses. But in the area you're talking about, the snow gets pulled across to the one side, so it does pull all the snow over to the driveways in there. And I have talked about bringing in a snowblower out or even a loader to try to help reduce the amount of snow that goes on, because it isn't fair to those people to get all the snow of the whole instead of splitting it there. The reason that we have done that is because of the wind. on that side. If we leave the snow on that side, then we're going to have a lot more of an issue keeping the road clean. So, but you're right. And we have another issue too that I'm addressing at this time with cul-de-sacs out at the lake. Our contractor with the motor graders are not able to circle up the cul-de-sacs, so they just push them part way in, and it's usually later before we get out there with a loader to clean those up. So we're going to make a conscious effort to get a loader out there earlier to work on those cul-de-sacs in a more timely fashion. But that goes back to spread thin on resources to do, such as we're talking about here in that area of the 12 or 14 houses and the cul-de-sacs. It just, the logistics is overwhelming. It really is.
I want to add here, Councilwoman Manty wasn't able to come to the meeting, but she's watching, and she texted me and just wanted me to point out that she got more compliments on your snow removal for this major event than she got complaints. And her feeling was that people recognized this was not your typical little snowstorm, that we had a 42-hour long 12 inches of snow followed by ice and then another snow dump. So thanks for a great job, Rob.
Thank you. Just on a last note, just some interesting things. I mean, these events, what the mayor just said, basically the 12 inches of snow with ice in between, and then another almost 2.5 inches of snow right after that, back to back. Winds up to 50 miles an hour. The drifting was astronomical. We did have a lot of issues. Roadways that normally take a few minutes to plow were taking hours to plow. 14th Avenue North was a good example. If I had the pictures off of my phone, it took, we had 3 motor graders with V-plows on the front, and we had those stuck quite a bit. And some of these are 6-wheel drive motor graders with these monstrous 6-foot-tall V-plows stuck because the drifts are 6 foot tall, and that's about what it takes to stick one of those. But, those areas took a lot of time. And I even got in a loader. The one day I was in a loader 14 hours. Our foreman was in a sander truck. He was in equipment the whole time. We were all trying to help out, where we could. But let's see, since I've been over there, 5 seasons or 5 winters, this is the first snow event that we've had where I think we did have last or 2 years ago an 11-inch snow, but we didn't have the wind with it. The wind is what really hurt us on this thing. It really caused some bad areas that took many hours to get cleared. Our average snow event, this is the 14.3 inches, that's roughly 6 times bigger than our average snow event. We whipped through that stuff in 30, 40 hours and clean it up. This, I think we did total in 58 hours of clearing. The first snow, the 12-inch anyway. That was the other thing, is when the DOT in, was it Dual County, the DOT and the county called all their plows in. And the county, Cottington County, called their plows in. Now, I'm not sure if the DOT in Cottington County called their plows off the roads, but we continued to plow highways and snow routes during that to keep those open for emergency reasons. And of course, I already mentioned about the 18-hour day. They averaged 13 hours for 9 days straight is what the staff averaged. And just so you know, in case you weren't aware of this, we do pay double time on Sundays for our staff, and holidays we pay double time and they get their holiday back. So, that's maybe not a big deal, but I want to make sure you're aware of that. And I already mentioned about the snow hole down here. The snow hole down being pretty much plugged up down on Old Home. So we probably have one event left in that place, and then we'll maybe have to hire a dozer. So anyway, that's all I had.
Councilman Billhauer had another.
A couple of questions and a comment. One question I think you just probably just answered. we really operate for the most part independently then of the state and the county. I'm just thinking of roads out in our neck of the woods that city roads abut up against county roads. We really call the shots, and the county has to do their thing. In other words, there's not coordination ongoing between county and city, for example.
Generally not. We've put together with the county, like on a good example is over by Sandy Shores in that area. A lot of times, the county still takes care of that area. That will be turned over to the city in the near future. When the bike trail goes through, we will be responsible for all that roadway. When we go through with our plows, our contractor plow generally, when they go through with it, they might knock a hole in it, and then the county plows will finish it up when they get there. But we kind of have an understanding. We're not generally calling each other during a storm and
Sure.
and going over stuff, but we do have an understanding of how we handle that.
Another question. I had occasion to bump into Chief Doug Kranz at a restaurant one night last week, and first of all, he was complimentary about the job being done out there on Derby Downs by Station 2, but also it's always a concern of theirs, and I've had people that live in Derby Downs that look across the street, and they're always concerned too about access for the emergency crews out there. So I just pass that on to you. I'm sure you guys coordinate back and forth with them, but that is a concern.
We do handle that as an emergency snow route in front of their part of the golf course road. When we run the lake area with our trucks, like we had Pinky running the lake early on during this event, and then we ran the lake area at, if I remember right, 1 o'clock and 5 o'clock again, which includes golf course road.
Okay. And then the comment, Mayor, you broached the subject, and it's a topic for another day, obviously, but you talked about people willing to pay more in tax dollars. You and I both sat in on the presentation, as did you, Rob, with the street superintendent from Sioux Falls here year and a half ago, and Sioux Falls does levy, if you want to call it a snow tax or whatever, they do levy a tax down there, and I think it is something that we may want to take a look at sometime not too far down the road.
Yeah, I think they do a frontage assessment of their property, which I think right now, if I'm correct, it's at $1.25 a foot, I believe, in Sioux Falls. So if you have an 80-foot of frontage, I don't know what that is.
Is that a one time a year?
Yeah,
Yeah.
one time a year.
Councilman Roby?
A number of years ago, Sioux Falls went through all of this, and they got a lot of press coverage when they put their snow gates in, and we've experienced pretty much the same things that they have. So there's kind of a narrow band where they work very well, and then it's kind of questionable outside of that band. Is that fair?
That is very fair.
Remind me how much they cost, and are they worth the investment?
Right now, it's about $7,500 per machine to put them on. That's what RDO charged us to put those on. Butler Cat wants about $10,000 a piece to put them on. My personal opinion on the snow gates, I think our snow clearing production would be a lot better, a lot faster, a lot less complaints if we didn't have them. We use them. It's no problem. As long as you guys, and the taxpayers want them, we're going to use them, and we're going to continue to try to add on machines. But it's like I've said earlier, basically the way to get faster is either to add more machines and more people, or if we currently just were to get rid of the snow gates, we'd be able to get faster because we'd have less people. Like I'm saying, the 4-man teams, we could have 3-man teams, and plus the speed of doing the edges would be faster, and we could keep the team moving faster rather than slowing the leader down to stay back with the snowgate machine.
The downstream driveways always have less impressive results.
That's right. Yep, the people at the end of the block, unless there's a long gap in between where there's no driveways, this person, his driveways in this scenario is he's pretty much not getting the benefit of the
He
gate.
doesn't see why we need them. But the
Yeah.
first one, they think they're great.
Yeah, the very first one, this guy's got it made most of the time.
And it's the same every time because you're
Yep.
not driving the wrong way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's it's a crude display that I've put together
Oh,
here,
that's
but
excellent.
hopefully it kind of clears the mud a little
Worked
bit.
really well. Councilman Danforth?
I get asked this question, Rob and I had posed it to you the other day, in regards to how do we determine where you start plowing? You know, let's just take up in my neighborhood, up in Ward A. You know, it seems like as you get farther to the north and east, those areas just seem to, because they're more open, they get hit harder. Meaning with
Blow in more.
Yeah, it'll blow in. And versus maybe some areas that are more sheltered and they don't get the wind effect per se. So how do you determine where you're going to start? Is it always the same? Does it vary? Do you flip a coin? What do you do?
You know, to be honest, our staff are our team leaders that we have in areas, such as in your area over there. We have a guy that's been with the city for 24 years now, and he's running the lead in that area. Now, he's come up with a pattern that's very efficient and a minimal amount of backtracking. Each team, I have a leader on each team. On the West team, we have a guy that's been with us for 33 years. He's established his route. And to be honest, I can't tell you exactly what his route is, but in general, the teams, depending on if we're doing avenues or streets, like if we're doing avenues, they like to take, the West team wants to take right-hand turns. So they'll start on the top and work their way to the south, because when they get to the highway, to Highway 81, or the central team, when they get to Highway 81, they make a right-hand turn. And then they'll go down one block and they'll come across, and when they get to their west edge, then of course that's a left-hand turn. But we always want to turn right on the highways. It's quicker to get out and go, so it's reducing the amount of time you have to sit and wait to get out. So these guys have spent a lot of time thinking about how to make their patterns efficient. Like I say, I couldn't tell you exactly unless we sat down and had the GPS tracking system or something like that. But in general, like on the east side of town, they'd start on this more towards the south. I think First Avenue North is a dividing point where the guys usually start there and work north, and then our west team, our farthest west team, when they get done with the west side of town, they'll go to South Central, we call it, which is west of 81 and south of First Avenue, and then they'll converge on southeast end of town to finish up the east team's lower portion of town. So,
Well,
yeah.
so it's highly likely if we're working to an efficiency pattern, we probably are having areas that are more on the first side and consistently those that are on
Just
the
like
back side of
this.
things.
Right.
It's strategic.
It is, and you are correct. There is a rhyme or reason to everything that these guys do and where we start, but it depends on the zone or the area of town that we're doing that day. Like if it's a streets day, where the guys start, or if it's an avenues day, where they start. So it's the most efficient. Somebody's going to be first, somebody's going to be last, and nobody wants to be last. So,
Councilman Wyatt?
and that's what we get the most complaints about is we're always last. Well,
Rob, one of the things that I hear, and I think I know the answer, but just to explain it for the public's knowledge, everybody says, why do you do Uptown when you do Uptown? Why is it, on the top of the list? And it's a unique situation up there, obviously, but maybe just explain that so people get a better understanding of why Uptown is usually at the top of the list.
Basically, it's been done prior to me ever coming in, and I haven't changed the process on that. And it really, we have a lot of businesses downtown, and, if we wait an extra day, I do receive a lot of calls from the downtown area, and it really comes down to businesses being
you know, it's important in downtown area that people get to their place to purchase or, you know, whatever it is. So we do focus on that, and it's in our policy that downtown is, I believe, third on our snow removal policy, which has been in place for I don't know how many years. It's highways, snow routes, and schools, and then the downtown area.
In that downtown area, that snow has to be removed. It's not like a residential area.
That's correct. We do, in the business district, we do haul all the snow out. We do allow, the people are allowed to push their snow into the street, not their parking lots. They're not allowed to push that in the street, but they are allowed to push their sidewalk snow in the street, and we will haul it out. And we do focus on that as an important area to do too, as well as like Mickelson Drive. And once Terex rolls in there too, it's going to become even more important. These areas we try to focus on getting people to work. It's hard because, you know, when you come out of a residential area, you're getting stuck there. But once you get to a snow route or a highway, you're going to get to your place of work, hopefully. And we are trying to focus on, like the airport too. You know, that's generally where our contractor starts. When we call him and say, hey, we need you to go at 3 in the morning, he generally starts now at the airport. So in the past he hadn't, but that's where he's starting now. So,
All right.
Isn't it fair, Rob, to say also in the downtown area that if you don't get to it early in the morning when your time is, when there's no cars there, you're not going to go there 6 or 8 hours later because now there's all the traffic there.
that is
Now
correct.
you've got to wait
Right.
for a 24-hour period to get up there when all the vehicles are gone.
That's
correct?
exactly correct. We start downtown at 2 a.m. We are done between 6 and 7 a.m. generally with downtown. This last time it took 13 hours when we had the 12-inch event, but I track, as you can see, I track the time on everything. We, you know, times the starts and stops that we had anything happen, we track all that as close as we can. I mean, there's sometimes we'll miss something, but that is important that we start downtown as early as possible so we're out of the way when traffic rolls in, because those people trying to get a snow loader or a snow blower plus a tandem axle truck or a semi with a side dump beside it is next to impossible when you have cars parked on both sides on some of those streets. So, and we do have an order. I've changed the order of how we do downtown as of this winter. First Avenue North will always be a priority one, where in the past it wasn't for many years. You know, it's got our police department and our fire department on First Avenue. It needed to be done first. So we do that. The guys always in the past like to leave that till last because it's wide and it's parallel parking. So you can still get that. You know, if it's 8, 9 o'clock in the morning and there's tons of traffic, you can still get that. It's wide enough because of the parallel parking. But it's important because it's got our emergency services on it. So I've just made it a priority to do First Avenue first and foremost, then move on to these other roads and try to get them done before 8, 9 o'clock when traffic really starts rolling into these businesses downtown.
All right. Well, thank you. That was very informative.
Thank you, Rob.
Is there any other old business? Is there any new business? I don't see any. There's no reason to go into executive session, so we'll look for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Wise, second by Danforth. All in favor, signify by saying aye. We're adjourned. Take a little break, and we'll be back at 5:30 for the council meeting.